Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. Josh, I come to you today from the beautiful state of New Mexico. I was out here for a wedding, and so those of you enjoying the show on YouTube, which if you're not, hey, check it out, like and subscribe, will see my little Adobe background here and a beautiful sunny day in just north of Albuquerque.
You know, I was coming in this morning and I was going to complain about how hot it is in Idaho. And then I saw your image and I was like, I'm just going to stay quiet. That doesn't feel worth it anymore.
Well, how hot is it in Idaho?
I think it got up to like 80 yesterday, 75.
Oh, Josh, you poor thing. 80 degrees. Oh, sad.
Look, I haven't put my window AC units in yet, Charlie. So my house, which is built in the 1940s, has zero circulation. It feels like I'm back in France where they just don't believe in AC, so it's like stuffy, but it's because I don't handle heat well. So,
well, we had some disc golf action again this weekend after a weekend off. Everybody's starting to crack the knuckles, get all warmed up as we get ready to go back onto the Elite Series for the OTB Open this coming weekend out in California, and we had the Masters Cup in Santa Cruz. It was a Silver Series event. 3 rounds, 2 at De La, and then 1 at the golf course, live coverage on DGN. So a fascinating event. Your winners this year. Gannon Buhr takes it down in MPO. It's his first DGPT win of any kind. Of course, this is a Silver Series event, not an Elite Series, but he gets the win over James Conrad and Matt Oram. And over in FPO, from the chase card, Sarah Hokom chases down Ella Hansen and gets the win. So Sarah Hokom coming through in the win for Masters Cup. Now, I want to start in MPO, Josh. Gannon Buhr showing us really what he's showed us at multiple points this season, which is an incredible all-around game, extremely effective putting. He was 97% from Circle 1X this weekend. But basically it was an automatic make from inside the circle. Great off the tee, great around the green, and was able to put together enough birdies early in the final round to be able to hold off any charges late. Although it did feel a little bit like when you go back to Las Vegas Challenge, except that there was no Drew Gibson there to get a string of crazy birdies to chase him down and force a playoff. This time he comes away the champ, and I mean, it feels kind of right that the first win for Gannon Buhr on tour is at a Silver Series, but I honestly feel like it almost belies the fact that he has been one of the best players this season, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about Ricky dropping, but Ricky was my pick for this tournament. Ricky drops, I have to scramble and pick another one because there's already like half the field's already teed off, so I'm trying to find someone who hasn't teed off. And I'm like, Kevin Jones has played well here. And I'm just like kicking myself. Like, why would I not think Gannon Buhr as just like a natural pick? And hindsight's always 2020, but Gannon Buhr is playing at just such a high level of disc golf for this year. It's incredible. It really is. And when you go over to just the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings, Gannon Buhr is number 4. He's ahead of Paul McBeth. And Paul McBeth has played 1 Elite Series and 1 Silver Series less than Gannon Buhr. So, maybe that's the difference, but it's also a 65-point gap between Gannon and Paul. It's, you take out Gannon's second place finish at LVC and then Paul does have the lead, but that's still incredible level of golf from the young man who I don't think expected to be up there in the top 5. I know I didn't have him anywhere near that level in my preseason power rankings.
I think that, like a top 15 type year would have been like an amazing achievement for Gannon Buhr.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, like let's give it to McBeth, if you want. I mean,
sure.
Gannon Buhr outplayed Paul McBeth squarely, soundly this weekend. Not close.
Uh-huh.
But let's just say, okay, McBeth plays all the tournaments and has the lead over Gannon Buhr. Okay, so Gannon Buhr's in 5th, but it's not even close after that. The next player up is James Conrad. And, James Conrad just told us last week in our interview series, that he's having a solid year, but he's not really putting together those great rounds to really vault him up the leaderboard. Now, he played very well this weekend. I think he certainly had a chance to win. And, he has 314 DGPT points. Okay. He is about 20 points clear of Joel Freeman in 7th and about 30 points clear of Kevin Jones in 8th. Gannon Buhr has 414 points. So he's 100 points ahead of James Conrad.
Yeah.
And sure, whatever, points. What does that mean? Well, look at the stretch that Gannon Buhr has had since Texas State's. 7th, then 4th at Tallahassee on the Silver Series, 5th at the Major at Champions Cup, and then 5th at Jonesboro, 10th at DDO, and now he just won the Masters Cup on the Silver Series. There's not a lot of guys out there who are just locked into the top 10 like this. Macbeth hasn't had a stretch that good. I mean, he was terrible at DDO. The guys who've done that are the guys in front of Gannon Buhr. Calvin Heimberg, Chris Dickerson, and Ricky. So there's been a question going on in the Multi-World Disc Golf Discord. Is Gannon Buhr elite? Is he an elite player? Now, let's set aside the points because that's an objective measure of how he's done at tournaments. But in the subjective sense, Josh, do you think Gannon Buhr is an elite disc golfer as it stands, here in May 17th, 2022?
I think it's really interesting because at the level that he's playing, and I think especially with the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings, it creates natural breaks for us in between players. It's really easy to look, and we just did that points breakdown, that you can see very clearly after Paul Macbeth, there's kind of a break, right? Or given that he skipped an Elite Series event. Typically, I would expect Eagle to be in that group as well, barring not having an injury. So let's say there's that sixth group. Just because there is more parity between the top guys in terms of their points and performance for this season does not mean that I think we should take our top tier. And this is the way that I find to be. And, James Conrad even openly talked about this kind of structure as well. When you think about players, you have your tier 1 guys, which are, undisputedly right now, Ricky, Calvin, Chris, Paul. And that's both kind of taking in current season as well as just historical performance. It's kind of a combination of both there. And then you have the tier 2 where James says he slots himself with Kevin and the other players in that group. Gannon Buhr is having a very good season. I am not quite ready to give him tier 1 status though with the other 5 guys. And there's 2 reasons why that's the case. Number 1 is that I think that there has to be a limit eventually, right? We cannot make tier 1 6 guys this week and 7 guys next week and 8 guys next week and 10 guys the week after. I think that you begin to lose the effectiveness of what it means to be elite if you just simply add, just keep adding people into that tier. Anytime someone has a really hot stretch. The second thing, though, that I think is instructive is that Gannon Buhr has had a really consistent season. But that being said, I think you look and where a lot of players, if you count Gannon's top 5 finishes, you're counting other players' podium finishes. And when you count Gannon's top 25 finishes, or even 10, then you're counting other players' top 5 finishes. There's just a small step. So Gannon, he's got a 24th at Waco and a 25th at the Open at Belton. Now grab one of what I would call the elite players. Let's say Calvin. That's a 16th and a 6th place. So his lows are still higher than Gannon's by a good margin. Gannon's got the Silver Series win. Calvin's got the Elite Series win. You look at Gannon went 5th at Champions, 5th at Jonesboro. Calvin's got a podium at Champions and a 1st at Jonesboro. They both took 10th at DDO, but Texas State's, Calvin's beating Gannon by about 5 places. Gannon is playing exceptionally well right now. I would not be surprised to see Gannon win a Disc Golf Pro Tour event. But the problem is that I think Gannon is still probably 5th to 7th place in my mind as to average finish and where I expect him in a tournament. And I expect the elite guys, I'm having a hard time trying to pick which one I'm going to leave out of the top 3. And I just don't have that problem with Gannon yet.
Yeah, of course the question comes down to what means elite. Like let me just ask a different question. Is Kevin Jones elite? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
No. But I'm saying I'm sorry. I was when we're talking elite, I'm thinking like tier 1, right?
That's fair.
And maybe
and that's the question that we all have to be able to ask. And I agree with the assessment that he is not tier 1. And he is borderline playing tier 1 right now.
He is.
But longevity matters. Consistency over time matters. We know that Ricky and Paul and Chris and Calvin have been doing this for years. Okay, and with fluctuations of quality, but that's to be expected, right? You're not always going to play your A game at all times. Like right now, Paul McBeth is not playing his A game, but it would be ridiculous to say that he is not tier 1 elite, 100% has a chance to win every single event that he enters. I'm not going to say that about Gannon Buhr, but what I am going to say is that he's definitely in tier 2. And we are getting to the point where the sample size is big enough that it's okay, this is who he is. Playing great for a couple tournaments, we see it, right? Luke Humphreys played great for a couple tournaments and has cooled off substantially since then. Nice player. Not tier 2. Maybe not even tier 3, right? Gannon Buhr, on the other hand, aside from a kind of a poor finish at Waco, has been extremely good every single week. Every single week. And now it's only May. We've only been on tour for 4 months? If that, right? Not even quite.
If that, yeah.
I mean, not even, right? We're coming up on 3 months on tour because you started the end of February. And so now it's, almost end of May. So we're coming up on 3 months on tour. 3 months is not a big enough sample size to say that somebody, this is who they are. But we're starting to get there with Gannon because remember, he finished last season and played really well at that point too. And I think what I really see about Gannon is the tools. He has the tools to be a tier 1 disc golfer. He's super young. Obviously, it's not like it's his fault that he hasn't had a chance to prove it yet. I mean, the guy has barely been on tour. Right. He's a child still. So, but he is tall. He has long arms. The levers are there. The ability to throw it far is there. And, importantly, I think we've seen 2 things from him so far this season. His ability to perform under pressure is there. Yeah, I mean, you can kill him for the LVC finish, but it's not like it was some total disaster. We've seen players melt. We've seen players completely melt down, right? Joel Freeman at USDGC, melted, right? Just suddenly couldn't make a putt. And that's not really what happened with Gannon. He just didn't execute very well down the stretch and had some bad breaks go against him. And I think, but what we've seen, he obviously played great this weekend. And I think we've seen him play well in the, lead card, cameras on him type spots. And the putting is as good as it gets. As good as it gets. He is an elite putter. That is not in question, right? I don't even know, who do you put above Gannon Buhr right now in the putting department? Let's look at the season stats. Let's look at the season stats. Circle 1X putting, for people who are on tour, what am I looking at here? Yeah, okay. Eagle, Andrew Marweed, Macbeth, Ricky, Matteo, Kyle Klein have all been a little bit better from Circle 1X. Gannon Buhr sitting at 85.
So here's what I want to highlight about Gannon Buhr, though, is, right? So you look at those numbers. Eagle, 89 and 33, excellent numbers.
Yep.
Andrew Marweed, 88 and 33, also excellent numbers. We know that about
that's about as good as it gets,
right?
Yeah.
Right. Matteo, 87 and 33. So there's another one. And then Gannon Buhr is 85 and 32. So those are the only 4 guys that have the 85% and above threshold in Circle 1X, as well as the 30% and above threshold for Circle 2.
Well,
And
let's give Chris Clemens his due. He's at 85 and 30.
Oh, okay. I didn't go down quite. Sorry, Chris. That's right on my line. That's so. And then Chris. So there's 5 guys who make that standard. I think what's impressive about Gannon though is he has weekends when and maybe I shouldn't call this as impressive. Maybe I should reward consistency. But it's Gannon has tournaments like this weekend, for example, where he just puts lights out.
Right.
I mean, 97% from Circle 1X was just what an incredible stat for the weekend to take down the win. And so, yes, he's not the highest, but I really feel like it's a weapon that when Gannon is putting well and really has a stroke, he
feels like he's not going to miss. Tournament. There's only a few guys who get that vibe going where you're like, oh, they can't miss. Like they just cannot miss right now. And I think what you see from him this weekend, right, if you look at the strokes gain numbers, he wasn't number 1 in putting. He wasn't number 1 tee to green, but he was top 5 in both. And, like, that's what I'm talking about. He has the all-around skill set, right? He averaged 1064 golf this weekend. He has the all-around skill set to be successful on any course in any conditions. And that's why I think he can be a tier 1 guy. It's impossible to give it to him now. You just can't. And I don't think we've seen him be up at the top competing for wins to the same extent that these other guys have. And certainly hasn't been doing it long enough. But I think that he is clearly in tier 2 right now. And I see no reason why he can't keep it up. That's the thing. Like, he's only gotten better.
Yep.
He's only gotten better. What's his ceiling? I mean, his ceiling is so high.
Yes.
I saw somebody say that they like Kyle Klein's game more than Gannon's. And I was like, I was kind of confused by that, honestly. Because, like, Kyle Klein's a great player. I mean, he's obviously had kind of a rough start to the season. But, like, what is it that you don't like about Gannon's game? Like, what is there not to like? Besides the fact that he can't throw the disc in a timely manner. I just feel like, I guess you'd say, like, you want to see him throw a little further, but I just feel like he has the full gamut of weapons. Backhand, forehand, putting. Like, I just think that really he just needs to get more experience playing on tour and playing in big spots, and then we're going to see him elevate into that next level.
Yeah, I don't think it's distance because I'm pretty sure
he's a bomber.
I think what was it? I don't remember what it was, but I mean Gannon throws just unbelievably far. He's one of the higher distance players that
including with the forehand
MPO. Yeah,
well, that's why I'm confused by the take. Like,
yeah, I don't understand either. I think Gannon Buhr, like you said, he's got all the skills to be an elite disc golfer, and I really don't see any reason why he doesn't keep this up. Like you said, it's crazy to me that he's playing at this high of a level while still going to high school. Like that's unbelievable to me to be able to manage both, and so that's just an impressive accomplishment on its own, I think. And this win really does a lot for Gannon. And we've talked about this prior, kind of the level of what Silver Series wins you give weight to and how much weight you do, but this one feels like a silver plus. It's on a well-established course that was been home to the national tour for a long time. It was a loaded MPO field. You're missing Calvin, Chris, Ricky, and Eagle. So, your tier 1 guys aren't there, but you still have Paul, and then all your tier 2 and below guys are there. And given that that's the case, I mean, Gannon, like you said, it really cements and I think establishes appropriately where Gannon fits in that mold. Tier 1 guys leave, Gannon shows up and says, "This is my weekend." And I think that was definitely the case. It really establishes, and it was a close win. It was one that he really, had to buckle down and make sure he got through. The 4 pars at the end definitely made things a little nerve wracking, but
Yes.
it was enough of a gap that the 10 under. I mean, what a round from Matty O though, 12 under. Like that, Matty O and Ben Calloway both shooting 12 under rounds. Matty O scoring 13 birdies on the round was just incredible. And so, but Gannon played smart, played well, and I think, like you said, really cements himself as a very high level tier 2 player with his victory this weekend.
Ricky, as you mentioned earlier, unable to compete late drop because he was dealing with a flare up of knee swelling, which he pointed to as and is an established symptom in some cases for Lyme disease. And it seems like he was doing a lot better by later in the weekend. He even joked on social media that like, hey, can I go ahead and just get my 2 rounds of daylight in and then join for the final round at the golf course? Like, I'll just play it myself. So I think he I don't expect this to be a long-term thing for Ricky, but does this give you any concern, Josh, about Rick?
No, I found it interesting that it was timed right after his vacation from Mexico. And the reason I say that is because, Ricky has told us in his last interview, he says with Lyme disease, it's a disease you live with the rest of your life, that the flare-ups are going to happen. And so he manages his diet diet and just kind of lifestyle regime very, very strictly in order to prevent flare-ups like this from happening. Goes on vacation, well-deserved vacation, I'm sure had a great time. I'm sure probably wasn't quite as strict. And I wonder if I'm not a doctor. I can't say that was the case. I just found what Ricky told us about Lyme disease and then the timeline of events leading up to this flare up and this incident to be interesting. And so I really doesn't give me a lot of concern. We know that Ricky's going to have these. He's going to deal with it the rest of his career. It really sucks that he has to. I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing in terms of his ability to play in the here and now. Yeah,
I agree with that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about FPO, Sarah Hokom getting the win, and Ella Hansen not getting it done in the final round. We'll be right back.
The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? If you want to get the custom pack that you envision in your mind's eye, the pack of your dreams, you can do it at any time. Go to pounddiscgolf.com and you can get your custom Octothorpe, your custom Octahall, your custom Carlton, your custom Toolbox, and their custom pack builders are now open all the time. No more waiting for drops or hoping that you get lucky. You can just go build your pack. You can tinker with it for a while before you hit the order button, but you can check it all out on their website and you can just design it exactly how you want, from the zippers to the main flap to the bottom of the pack, exactly what you envision. pounddiscgolf.com.
Welcome back to the Upshot. So Sarah Hokom, down 5 strokes coming into the final round, shoots a 10-10 rated round to come back from the chase card and get the win. And I'll tell you what, it is rare for a player to come off the chase card in FPO and win a tournament. It does not happen very often. So tip of the cap to Sarah Hokom for putting together one of the best rounds of her season to come back and get this win. And that's got to feel great for Sarah. Given the way that, she's really just been finishing further down the leaderboard a lot this year with the influx of all these great new players and the players coming over from Europe.
Charlie, it really is a good win. And you mentioned about how rare it is for FPO to chase down from the win from the chase card. Statmando gives us a stat over on Twitter, says that she is only the second woman to win from chase card at a major, elite, or silver series event. The only other one is Paige Pierce with her first win at the 2017 Green Mountain Championship, where she came into the final round in 5th place. So
incredible.
Yeah, rarefied company there. I mean, it does not happen. I think you oftentimes will see in FPO, the leaders have oftentimes separated themselves quite significantly.
I think that's the difference here, right? being 5 shots back on chase card, that often doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, that's so it's a great victory for Sarah. I think it's also especially important given the kind of season that she's been having. I think it's probably nice for her to get a win under her belt. It was not nearly as big of a field in FPO as it was over in FPO.
Yes.
But I mean, a 7 under final round, great shooting from Sarah. So gotta be excited for her.
It's still a very competitive top 10. You know, Katrina, Ella Hansen finishing tied for second, Maria Oliva in fourth, tied with Owen Scoggins, Jessica Weiss, Jen Allen, Juliana Korver, top 10 finish. Nice job, JK. Back on tour. Nice to see that. Kat Murch and Lisa Fakis. But obviously no Paige, no Haley, none of the Europeans. So yes, a reduced field. But, you know, when you come out there, you shoot bogey free, as Sarah Hokom did. She hits 86% of her C1X putts. Basically, she just missed one. And was like on the green in regulation every single hole in the front 9, and then 4 in the back, and you know, just an extremely impressive performance overall. But Josh, we have to talk about Ella Hansen, who put together 2 really great rounds at De La. I think a course that doesn't obviously set up for, when you think of De La, you're not like, oh, Ella Hansen's about to go shred that. And that's what she did. She shot well above her rating both rounds at De La, has this nice lead going into the final round. And then you're thinking, okay, now Ella gets to go play the golf course where, given her distance advantage, she should be able to just wrap this thing up. But it goes to show you that just because you have like a predisposition to play well on a certain track does not guarantee the performance. It's not guaranteed that Ella Hansen isn't going to be successful at De La, the same way that it's not guaranteed she's going to be successful on the golf course. And that's what happened. I think watching Ella play, it looked like, you know, she hasn't really played in this position ever before in her career, I don't think, where she's had a lead in the final round of a tournament. And sure, it's a Silver Series, but like that's a lot of pressure, like live coverage. And I just think that she didn't look totally comfortable. Was trying to like be a little too touchy, almost a little too conservative with shot selection, probably because she had a lead. And I think ultimately put herself in a position where like it was going to be really stressful coming down the final few holes. Of course, goes bogey on 15 and then takes the double bogey to kind of push her back of Hokom by 2 strokes on 17. And at that point, it was basically over with only the par 3 18th left to play.
Well, I mean, Ella Hansen was, 5 strokes clear of the field? I think. Anyway, whatever. I mean, she was a handful of strokes clear of the field going into that final round. Given that that's the case, I think not only was she playing with the lead for the first time, but it wasn't just a neck and neck, you know, you've only got 1 stroke. Because I think when you go into a final round with 1 stroke, you think to yourself, great, I have 1 cushion. And then after that, I still have to just play great golf because, you know, they're right behind me. When you go in with a small handful of strokes, that's when I think it really can change the dynamics of the situation, where your decisions about running certain putts or going for certain shots can be influenced by the fact that you know you have strokes to play with. And, you know, here's the crazy thing. You know, Ella goes in, starting in hole 15, bogey, birdie, double bogey, par. If she shoots those 2 bogey holes, so 15 and 17, even, like Sarah Hokom did, Ella wins the tournament. If, you know, her putting this weekend, in round 1, it was 88 and 14. In round 2, it was 71 and 43. In round 3, it was 56 and 0. If she putted like she averaged throughout the weekend, Ella Hansen wins this tournament. There are a lot of counterfactuals that you can give that make Ella Hansen win this tournament, right? And of course, you know, the what ifs will always cause more problems than good. But I think what is important to take away is that Ella Hansen now has, I think, really good experience. She's played this. She's lost that lead. She can kind of understand what happens and go back and reflect and look and take that away and then say, all right, next time, what of the what if scenarios should I be playing for to ensure that I don't lose a lead like this again? Because I can guarantee you that Ella Hansen, with the rapid ascension of her skill level, will find herself at another tournament, whether Silver Series or Elite one day, where she's going to have a handful of strokes going into the final round, and she's going to have to play with that lead.
I'm not even going to say one day. I think it's going to happen again this year. Like this,
not shocking.
This feels a little bit like Gannon Buhr at LVC. And like they're not the same player. Gannon Burr's been, playing since he was a little kid, and he's kind of done the juniors development scene and then kind of come onto the pro tour, kind of a classic disc golf story. Obviously, Ella Hansen coming to the sport later in life has not played nearly as long as Gannon Buhr, but there is the sense that like you have these two players who are obviously gifted at the sport who are still kind of coming up. And this was Ella Hansen's LVC, right? I mean, it just like didn't have the A game that she needed in the final rounds. And like, absolutely. I mean, like you say, anything like on a couple of holes go differently and she can win 100%. She had a 3-stroke lead heading to the final round, by the way, over Owen Scoggins.
3-stroke.
And then she had 5 on another like kind of logjam of players that included Sarah Hokom. And I want to point this out. I mean, Ella Hansen shot slightly above. She basically shot at her rating the final round. So it's not like it was some awful performance. She shot okay. It's just that Sarah had a really fantastic round, and it's not enough typically to shoot one of your rounds just okay. And now if it's a 4-round tournament, you could probably get away with it. But at a 3-round tournament, especially one that has kind of more tight scoring conditions like De La, 3 strokes / 5 strokes. I mean, I think it's fair to say it should have been enough. I think it's fair to say it should have been enough and that she should have been able to win. But these are the lumps that you take when you're new to tour and when, you haven't played in that position before. That's a difficult experience. And I do think it's the kind of thing that you can come away and say, all right, well, go back, watch a tape, be like, oh, wow, like, why did I do that shot that way? Like, why was I tentative there instead of being aggressive? Or vice versa. Why did I get aggressive there? That doesn't seem like a good spot for it. There's so much to learn from an experience like this one. And, tip of the cap to the vet, Sarah Hokom, for coming out and shooting great and getting her first win of 2022.
I think something that you highlight that is really valuable, and I need to reach out and get the Statmando guys to help me out with this. It not only is it not good enough to shoot an okay round, but if you shoot your rating, no matter how highly rated you are, shooting your rating is not good enough. The only way to win a tournament, right? The only way to win a tournament is to outperform your base or your consistent level.
Because somebody else is going to outperform theirs.
Exactly. And so I think that's really fascinating that when like the measure of greatness and like the people who win consistently, what that is showing is that it is a player who has the ability to shoot above their mean regularly. That's what wins measures. Honestly, it's the ability to shoot above your mean, because it's getting to the point that nobody's mean, and this, we're not far removed from the time when Paige Pierce's mean was enough to win a tournament, where she could shoot her rating, and I think she's still close to the point. I mean, we're not quite there in FPO, or we're just on the cusp or just past, because Paige Pierce shooting a 997 rated round, that's enough to win a lot of FPO tournaments. But with Paige's rating going down and the level of FPO competition going up, I'm really interested. I'm gonna have to go back and look and pull some numbers. But Ella Hansen shoots her rating in round 3, and even though she had the 3 or 5 strokes, 5 strokes at least on the people who caught her, shooting your rating, shooting how good you are consistently is not enough. You have to have an extra gear to turn up and show that you can play at an elite level when the conditions, meaning the tournament, the scores, and the course demand it. And this week, Ella Hansen did not rise to that level. She didn't play bad, but she didn't change gears and step into that extra gear. And Sarah Hokom did, and that's the difference.
I think if you imagine a fake player who is extremely low volatility, that they always shoot their rating. Let's give them a really good rating, 965 FPO or 1045 MPO. You know, a top player, but they're extremely low volatility, so they shoot almost all of their rounds within 5 points of their rating. They never win. They never win. They place in the top 10 all the time. They're one of the best players on tour, and they never win.
Yep.
And I mean, there are some players kind of like that on tour. But now that's not a realistic scenario. Obviously, the whole concept of a mean is that it's an average. So like sometimes you're going to be above it and sometimes you're going to be below it. But it is indeed the case. Like Sarah Hokom averaged just over 980 this weekend to win. Now, there are some players like Kristen Tatar and Paige Pierce who could average their rating and maybe have won. But, you know, they are the exception, right? I mean, we're talking about the absolute tip top. But it is an interesting point that you make, because it's totally true. Like, you see, like, what's the rate? If we go back and we look at all the round rating averages for the winning players at tournaments this season, you're going to regularly see them be 1070 and MPO 1065, 1070, and they're going to be 985 to even sometimes up almost to 1,000 rated in FPO. And occasionally we see players average over 1,000 for a tournament. Right. And so, of course, that you have to be able to hit that next gear. And I think sometimes it's just about the timing. You know, if Ella Hansen could go back and have like slightly more average rounds and be behind by 2 or 3 strokes instead of ahead by 2 or 3 strokes, and then have that great round in the final round, maybe that's the difference. Because if you're totally dialed in and you can press for that extra birdie or two, that can be enough. But it's certainly the fact that Ella Hansen is once again up at the top. You know, we talk about elite players. I think it's very clear to say that Ella Hansen is not a tier 1 player. It may be the case that she's not yet a tier 2 player either, but we are seeing somebody moving up through the tiers pretty quickly right now.
Yeah. That's 100% right. And what an exciting player to watch. And this is, you ready for the coolest part about this, Charlie? So if you look at the top 10, Juliana Korver has the lowest PDGA number at 7,438. What a legend. The 4-digit number. Ella Hansen is the only 6-digit PDGA number. The rest of these players have a 5-digit number, the highest one being Cat Merch at 99455, which makes sense. She's pretty young, but I mean, Maria Oliva, 63257 is the next highest number after that. Ella Hansen, 144,112. I mean,
144,112.
It's
wow.
So far removed from the other players. I mean, 50,000 players later from Cat Merch, Ella Hansen joined the PDGA, and here she is.
It's something. So certainly an interesting weekend as we kick off the West Coast swing. A little hard to get into the whole thing this weekend. I mean, the post-production for the Pro Tour YouTube channel has improved. I think people kind of need to understand that it's like the typical production companies just putting out their coverage under the DGPT YouTube channel. I think it's kind of funny when people are like getting all worked up about, oh, the Pro Tour is doing a terrible job with their YouTube coverage. And it's like, well, but like, this is just Gatekeeper. Like, do you like the Gatekeeper? Like, are you just mad because it's on the Pro Tour YouTube channel? But I mean, I don't know. They made some weird choices with graphics, and it's sometimes taking them a long time to get the coverage out. The thing is, it's not being able to watch live at De La sucks. It really sucks. To then have to watch the golf course live, like, of course, I understand the logistics of that, but it's just not as fun. And it feels like this tournament really needs to be able to get live coverage going in the woods, and may just not happen. So, like, is this relegated to Silver Series forever? Maybe.
I don't know. Don't talk like that, Charlie.
I know, but they were having cell signal issues even for like UDisc scoring. Like you can't get live video broadcast out of there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool tournament, cool course, a lot of fun. And we get ready for the OTB Open coming up this weekend. We'll have a great interview coming up tomorrow with a couple of the folks who run the OTB Open, including Sean Jack, who's been on the show many, many times. Looking forward to talking with them on our interview series. And then, of course, we'll have our preview on Thursday. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, we are going to talk about a question that we asked James Conrad that got some emails going from some listeners. What is the thing that is going to make disc golf have its next big leap? We'll try to answer that question next. Welcome back to the Upshot. Before we try to figure out what the catalyst will be for the next wave of disc golf's growth, we want to take a quick look at the purse watch for the Masters Cup. So we've pulled the numbers. Your total purse for the Masters Cup, $35,790. $28,140 of that going to MPO, $76.50 going to FPO. The MPO winner payout, $27.35. The FPO winner payout, $13.50. That is down 30% total purse from 2021. Of course, the Masters Cup was on the national tour last year, and now just a Silver Series. To compare this to another Silver Series from earlier this year, Belton came in at a total purse of $34,357. So Masters Cup slightly ahead of that at $35,790. Josh, any thoughts on this?
I mean, kind of follows the national tour to Silver Series trend. MCO, which was the national tour finale, so has the additional cash there. They dropped 57% from 76,000 all the way down to 32,000. It seems like that 35 mark, 30 to 35, is kind of where our Silver Series are rolling in. Half of a pro tour, that seems right. That seems okay. It seems like that's just kind of where we're at for that number, and nothing too remarkable to me. I'm going to be really interested to see it as we continue to go on. As we haven't had a ton of Silver Series that were relegated from the national tour. We're going to get a couple more of them as we go, and I think that's going to really add some numbers and some figures and some discussion to that topic.
Yeah, I think I'm curious to talk to some more TDs about like where is the disparity coming from in terms of payout. Right, some of it is field size, but like, is being on the Elite Series really that much more lucrative, or does it just mean that you have to spend less time doing fundraising when you're doing a Silver Series? Because it's like a pretty big difference, We go from DDO a week ago that's almost 80,000 in purse to 35,000 in purse, and an $8,600 payout for MPO and a $5,000 payout for FPO. Like, no wonder some of the top pros are taking these tournaments off. Like,
sure. It's
not just about whether you like the tournament or not. It's also about like, well, if I win, I only win $1,700. Like, why? Like, Sarah Hokom won $1,350. Like, it's not nothing, but it's not great. So no, I don't know. It just feels to me still that like the Silver Series doesn't know what it's trying to be. It's like it's being presented as though it's still like this big important tournament that gets live coverage and stuff, but like the payout doesn't match that. A lot of times the field doesn't match that, and so I don't know. I think one thing we didn't mention over in MPO, we had a player finish inside the top 10 that didn't take cash because he's an AM. And so that was pretty cool. To me, like, that's kind of the cool thing about a Silver Series is like seeing players that you don't typically see succeeding, being able to do so. So I don't know. I think we're still the Silver Series still needs to get worked on a little bit to kind of figure out what it's trying to be for the long term.
Sure. Well, and shout out to Andrew Miranda, who was the one, the AM shot 16 under, tied for 7th, 1,001 rated. Such a cool story. And you know, speaking of that Silver Series, I really feel like it you know, we talked about kind of the geographically connecting the Silver Series and making it a separate tour. I think if these are what the payouts are going to be, especially as payouts for the Elite Series continue to go up and go up rapidly, I think Silver Series is very quickly going to find itself as being a distinct tour from the Elite Series. And you know, players are just playing it out of sheer convenience. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, create your standards, create the rules that Silver Series have to abide by, and then don't put a ton of resources into it. Maybe you hire something, or like, you know, right now you can sell the rights to Jomez for lead card, but maybe you hire Gatekeeper to cover all your Silver Series and do final round post-produced, right? And,
I mean, that's
just
basically what's happening now, right?
Right. So just
these
pay them
companies
to
are
do
getting
that.
hired to produce it for the Pro Tour YouTube channel.
Yeah, and then just let the Silver Series be its own separate tour, and don't put that many resources into it. That's how I feel. But you're right though. There is definitely that in continuity with how it presents itself and the actual kind of results and what we're seeing take place.
All right. Well, let's turn our attention to the question that we asked James Conrad. What's going to be the driver for the next wave of disc golf's growth? And James didn't really have an answer. He's felt it's going to be multiple things, and that's fair. We got some emails, including one, Josh, that you're going to take a look at right now, and then we'll see if we can try to answer this question.
Yeah. So this comes from Aaron Dow, and Aaron Dow sends 2 emails, one just a little follow-up, and he says that the whole goal in order to make disc golf make its next great leap is to gain sponsorship money that's not from endemic sponsors. And he thinks that's primarily driven by viewership. And so his argument, he says, gives us 2 things that he thinks really could be a big deal in helping make the next big leap. The first one is growth at the youth level. Talks about getting the sport into schools, working with the National Federation of State High School Associations and state associations to make disc golf recognized, you know, put more courses in at, you know, elementary schools and middle schools, and just, even if they're little, you know, 5-hole courses, whatever, right? Just get them playing the sport. We talk a lot
Literally
about that
a
one.
single basket.
Right. Great. Exactly. So we've talked about that. We completely agree. I think we see that, you know, Ricky's Foundation targets schools primarily, the Wysocki Bomb Foundation. So that one I think is really understood and accepted. The second one is the one that I really liked, and it's one that I've definitely said and talked about, but I love the take and the way that he puts it. So he titles it Infrastructure and Aesthetics. Whenever we hit a point where we stop redesigning courses every single year and have the funds to create amenities and landscaping that make a course stand out from my local park will be the turning point. I'll focus more on aesthetic here, since that's what would impact more people immediately through coverage. My mother has been around the sport for nearly 25 years. I don't know if she's ever thrown a disc more than 5 times in her life. She and my dad were in Vermont and stopped at Smuggler's Notch, and I kind of hyped up the courses and telling them about how they were considered to be top level worldwide. When she came back, she thought the property was nice, but said that it needed some more flowers. She doesn't personally understand or care about the difficulty it takes to flex a shot through the woods, but she does appreciate the aesthetics of an event. Does it look good? That's what counts. I want a giant mural by the first tee that's created by a local artist. Give me a unique scoreboard to cut to. I think MVP does have this, and I think I really like that on hole 18. To cut to when updating leaderboards. How about some white dogwoods or eastern redbuds? And, you know, disc golf needs to bring some personality beyond the player's apparel. Disc golf courses, and I love this last line, the last couple lines. The disc golf courses should have some bright, unique features if you want to capture people's attention. You want to differentiate from disc golf? Bring in some colors besides brown and green. I want the Valley jerseys, not Amen Corner.
I don't think that is going to be the way of disc golf's growth, but I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Of having more beautification of courses as something that is considered, because like that's just not considered right now.
Sure.
Like it's like, oh, we need to make sure the OB is clean. We need to make sure there's no trash on the course. We need to have good signage. But people aren't thinking about landscaping yet. And maybe a couple of course designers are thinking about that, but that's not the primary focus. And I think that's correct. Like, that's something that you work on when you have the money to do that. It's a big undertaking that requires you to have somebody on, your team that's like literally a landscape expert. And you have to have a plan for how you're going to keep it alive. You have to, like, these are not golf courses where you have a 30-person maintenance staff. You have to be realistic about what could come. And, golf had plenty of growth and success during the pandemic as well. But disc golf is this extremely accessible thing. A lot of people said, let's go give it a shot. And the sport doubled in size, maybe tripled in size. So we're not going to get that again. And so what is going to be the next thing? Build courses that are designed for the everyday person and new players. That's where we're going to see the next wave of growth, I think.
So I want to add a second suggestion to go along with Aaron's about growing the youth level. I mean, kind of what you've tied into this. He talks about working with the NFHS in order to get the sport recognized as a high school sport. I think that's a good step. I think it's a hard step. An easier step that I would propose, and this comes thanks to my city background now. Go to your Parks and Recreation, outdoor recreation coordinator. This is the person who runs your city's Little League, their T-ball, their soccer, their Pee Wee football, whatever those sports are. That's the person who's in charge of running your city-run events. Go to that coordinator. Grab a couple couple of folks from your league, 3 or 4 of them. You'll probably have to do a background check. But pass a background check, get those documents, and take them and say you want to run a 4-week disc golf league for ages, you could even say 8 to 14 or whatever the age is, and set up an easy. Go to your local shop, ask them for 20 putters or however many people sign up. Right, dirt cheap to do. Take them to a local course. Spend 20 minutes teaching them how to throw, or 30 minutes teaching them how to throw, and then play a little 9-hole round, and then have their parents pick them up an hour later. It would be an easy to run league. You do it on one night a week. You do it for a month. You could run and just give that a shot to start. Make the fees incredibly reasonable, $15. And then what you get out of that is you get the massive marketing infrastructure of your public municipality, who are going to be putting that at all their public recreation centers, who are going to be blasting signups on their social media page, who are going to be advertising that to not the insular community of the disc golf community, but to everybody, saying, hey, are you looking for a fun summertime activity to help keep your kids busy for 1 month? Here's this disc golf league. It's available from 3 to 4 o'clock, right? Disc golf camp, whatever you call it, right? It's 1 month. It's cheap. And I think it becomes a really accessible way for folks in your city to get kids involved. And it really does not require a lot of startup costs, a lot of infrastructure, whether that be coaches, etc. You'll probably have to have a coach or adult to kid ratio, but get your league night. And if your league night's on Wednesdays and it starts at 6 o'clock, then ask folks who could come at 5 o'clock to run disc golf camp for an hour before league. And there you go. I mean, you could have a really easy to run public league that I think can bring in a lot of new sport. And it's not just, right, it's not just their kids. It's their kids who then go home and say, can we go disc golfing on the weekends? And then their parents are taking them disc golfing, or their older siblings are taking them disc golfing. And then the parents get into it and they're going to play it against sports. And they're like, well, that's right. I think that method, especially if you come and say, this costs the city nothing, we just ask that it's a $10 registration fee to cover the putter, your city will be very amicable to it in most cases, especially if you have a good working relationship with your city, and it's significantly easier to do than getting it recognized at the high school level or getting a basket installed at a school, for example.
100%. It sounds nice to say, oh, let's just get it in high schools. That's a lot harder than it sounds. There's no base of players. You're not going to get state high school associations to agree to make disc golf a varsity sport when there's nobody playing it. Ultimate Frisbee has been way more integrated into high schools and colleges, and it is a varsity sport in one state, in Vermont. Anyway, let us know your thoughts. There's so many answers to this question that could be valid. It may not be that youth is the driving force. Disc golf has done a lot of growing, and it hasn't really involved youth very much at all. So let us know your thoughts. We will see you here tomorrow for the Upshot interview series, and then we'll be back with you on Thursday to preview the OTB Open. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you on Thursday right here on the Upshot.